All right. I think we're going to get started. If I get a thumbs up from Kim, I'll start some intros. Okay, great. I'm Sarah Swisher. I'm the Vice President of Talent and Workforce at the Toledo Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us today. Whether it be that you've heard this through the Chamber or through Epic, we're excited to bring this virtual event to you, and excited to have Kim Dunham here with us from TARTA. A little background on Kim. Kim is the manager of the Toledo Area Regional Transit Authority, a public transportation provider located in Northwest Ohio. As such, she is responsible for all operational, administrative, and financial functions of TARTA in accordance with the policy goals and objectives established by the 13-member Board of Trustees. TARTA provides fixed-route paratransit transport for the elderly and disabled members of the community and on-demand transit services. The agency also serves as a conduit of federal and local infrastructure funding for public transportation projects. Prior to joining TARTA in December 2019, Kim served as the Executive Director of Greater New Haven Transit District and Chief Financial Officer of Greater Hartford Transit District. She's also led the nationally lauded Connecticut Drug and Alcohol Testing Consortium. Ms. Dunham serves as a member of the American Public Transportation Association Board of Directors, APTA Emerging Leaders National Mentor, APT Foundation Mentor, and Rotary Club of Toledo member. She is also an alumni of the Leadership APTA Class of 2016. Kim has a deep passion for our industry and strongly promotes social equality and workforce development initiatives. She greatly enjoys supporting local public transit activities, having served as a statewide rodeo judge, C-Trail ambassador, and CT Fast Track ambassador. She looks forward to having the opportunity to lead similar transformational projects in the Metro Toledo region. She also has an affinity for historic rail stations, having worked at the Union Station in Hartford, Connecticut for nearly 3 decades. I'm going to pass this over to Kim. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who have questions, you're welcome to either put those up in the group chat and they're public. If you wish for your question to remain anonymous, you're welcome to privately message either Kim or myself, and we can read those aloud and keep your name separate. But Kim, thank you. How are you doing today?
Doing awesome, Sarah. Thanks so much for having me. This is so exciting. And the bio that you just read, there were probably the first 2 paragraphs, just business, right? We need to share that. There's so many things I want the people who are on this call to understand. I love this alignment, right? You heard things about leadership APTA and mentoring and APTF. So like mentoring and growing people, emerging leaders and the next generation of leaders is just like, I love it so much. So I'm so happy to be here with all of you. I know that the members of EPIC, that's who you are, 2,000 strong. I want to acknowledge Danny Woodcock, who not only is the chair, the board chair, Danny of EPIC. Hope I get that correct. Thank you. And I'm so fortunate because Danny is also the president of the TARTA Board of Trustees. Fairly newly appointed, so as there's new energy in my seat as the general manager, there's also anybody who knows Danny knows how much energy, devotion, and commitment he has to making this community better. And I don't even know where he gets all of that energy. I mean, I think I just like build exponentially off of it. It helps me sometimes, you know, but what a pleasure to be here. The first thing I'd like to do is introduce my colleague, Lucas Beam, who's our director of IT. He's gonna share with you this really super cool video that we just developed about the future of TARTA. Lucas?
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Hey, everyone. So let's see here. Hopefully everyone should be able to see my screen now.
Yep.
Let me redo that actually. There we go. All right. Here we go.
We're reimagining TARTA and excited about the opportunity to move the system and our region forward. Today, we find ourselves at an important crossroads, giving us an incredible opportunity to reinvent together. Our community, customers, and businesses need a public transit system of the future. Currently, TARTA runs on a hub and spoke system. That means every fixed route line comes in and goes out of downtown Toledo, requiring riders to transfer. This model no longer fits our community's transportation needs. In addition, our region is preparing for economic and population changes. To achieve success, Northwest Ohio must have an effective, efficient, and responsive public transit system. So we're focusing on 5 key areas: improving operational efficiencies, building a mobility ecosystem, focusing on an exceptional customer experience, deploying advanced technologies, and increasing the value to our communities and businesses while enhancing our riders' quality of life and access. Now, keeping those 5 areas in mind, we're going to explore things like multimodal mini-hubs, microtransit on-demand service to low-density and rural areas, and expanded paratransit service areas. Extending hours and locations to meet the needs of employers and our second and third shift workforce. More frequent service on high-demand corridors. Circulators in critical high-traffic areas. Building connections within our ecosystem to include things like bikes, scooters, rideshare services, van pools, intercity buses, rail, and more. Enhancing passenger amenities like lighted and heated bus shelters, better wayfinding, and real-time digital signs at bus stops. We'll also deploy more user-friendly technology like Wi-Fi on buses and a more efficient rider app that identifies routes and tracks vehicles in real time. Also, a brand new smart card fare system that lets you purchase fares before you board. TARTA is also building a new executive leadership team, experts who have led bus system redesign and rebranding efforts in other parts of the country. We're excited about all the opportunities that lie ahead as we work with community members and employers to completely redesign a public transit system to carry our region into the future. We look forward to sharing ideas as we reimagine a public transit system that serves many kinds of riders, is a valuable resource for businesses, and helps all of our communities thrive. The future of public transportation in Northwest Ohio is here. Now, get on board and join us as we embark on this transformational journey together.
Thanks, Lucas. So I hope everybody is just when we first got that video, I think I watched it like 50 times in one day. Every time I watch it, my adrenaline gets pumped up, my energy. I mean, how exciting is this for our region? And I know that the audience I'm speaking to, right? You all have been outside of our community. So you've been to other metro areas that have modern and progressive public transit systems, right? You are embarking on beginning of your adult life journey, right? And you want to live, work, and play in a community that you don't necessarily need to own a vehicle, right? We need to have frequent and reliable service. You want real-time data. You want to know when the next vehicle is going to come. You want to use technology. If you've been to Chicago or Seattle or LA or Dallas or Atlanta or New York or Boston or the like, I mean, we could do all of that here, right? Like, you've probably used a single payment platform card, for instance, like the Orca card, or down at MARTA, the Smart card. You want to have choices, right? Every minute of your day counts, and you don't want to be wasting time. So how can we build a transit system that lets you know that you want to make the choice to ride the next vehicle, for instance, like on high performing corridors, that we had such frequent service that we don't need the timetable schedule. I don't know if any of you have seen what a TARTA timetable schedule looks like, but frankly, I think it's very complicated. We don't have bus stop numbers on our bus stops, so I don't really know how to make the alignment between what the timetable says and when the vehicle is going to arrive. You want to use smartphone technology, web portal. You want to know in the moment, do I want to get a bike share? Do I want to grab a scooter? Do I want to park my car? Like, I don't know if anyone's been to Columbus, but the fact that they won the US DOT Smart Cities Challenge money, and they're building technology into everything. So you drive by a parking garage there, they tell you how many open spaces are available. That gives you in the moment, the decision of which mobility option you want. Do you want to take your car? Do you want to go park it? Do you want to ride transit? And you're making financial decisions, right? Many of you have likely just finished school in the last 5 or so years, 5 or fewer years, perhaps coming out with quite a bit of student debt. This COVID circumstances, I'm probably not going to talk too much about that, but I mean, COVID's in the middle of this, so what you thought your future looked like might have changed just even in the last 10 weeks or so, but you want to make life decisions and live in a progressive urban center or the suburbs of, but that are very futuristic and progressive. So I could stop for a minute, Sarah. I don't know if anyone has questions on that. The other 2 components is I was going to talk about my career journey, and then I was going to talk about leadership. But do you want to touch on questions about what TARTA's system will look like? Okay, I take that as
no questions so far. So just,
okay.
Yeah, you're
Terrific.
welcome to continue. Thanks.
So again, I know I'm talking to future leaders, present leaders, people, you don't have to necessarily be in a position. It's not about position, right? You can be a leader within your agency, no matter where you serve, whether it's with your peers or with individuals who report to you. I've been in the public transit industry directly or indirectly for about 30 years. Some of the items that Sarah read in my bio, like this is important, I want to share with you. Like, so hopefully here at TARTA, we're gonna, in the next 2 to 5 years, we are gonna deploy such new modern systems. Like how about a bus rapid transit system? Sarah referred to CT Fast Track. I wasn't on the leadership team to roll out that project, but that was a 9.4 mile fixed guideway bus rapid transit system from New Britain to Hartford, Connecticut. Only CT Fast Track vehicles rode on it. They received easement rights from Amtrak to run that BRT system. But I get so excited about things like that I just showed up and I was an ambassador for a couple weekends. We rolled out CT Rail, which was expanded commuter rail service. And the reason I'm telling you about some of this is imagine if we could expanded passenger rail here in Toledo to Cincinnati, to Chicago, to Detroit. Like let's think way outside the box. This isn't our parents' or our grandparents' transit system. What I'm excited that TARTA could play a lead role, right? Perhaps, or a partnering role in those kinds of futuristic intermodal connectivity, whether it's a bus rapid transit system or it's expanded passenger rail or it's better interconnectivity down at the train station between local bus, intercity bus, passenger rail, taxi, and those mobility hubs that you saw in the video. Imagine, and if you get the chance to go on Columbus's Smart Cities website, that's like, how about having a zip car, a smart car right next to a bus shelter with that solar lighting and real-time data. So they call it ITS. So that if you don't have a smartphone, we actually would have wayfinding boards that could tell you when the next bus comes and where the transfer is and the like. So that's kind of 30 years of experience. I was so fortunate. I spent 27 years at Historic Union Station in Hartford. That was an 80,000 square foot mixed use transportation center that had connectivity between all types of modes. And also had been built out for office, retail, mixed use. And that was exciting. Maybe we look at our local train station down on Martin Luther King Boulevard. I know the Port Authority is doing great work in mixed use development in that area. I also know that there's development going to happen at the Park Hotel. So that kind of experience in my career, I'm hoping to bring that expertise here to our community. Our TARPS facility is right across the street from the train station, so it makes a lot of sense to be kind of talking about making those connections. I'll just expand, I guess, a little bit on a personal level for my career journey. I will tell you that, and this is important because you're going to come across a lot of crossroads in your life, your professional life, your personal life. I began as a part-time bookkeeper at the train station. I worked 2 nights a week collecting rent checks for the tenants and paying utility bills, because my husband and I wanted to be sure that I stayed home and I was able to raise my 3 children. The reason I'm telling you that is that I've also been involved in WTS, which is Women's Transportation Seminar, which is an international group that promotes the advancement of women in the transportation sector. And people will give different opinions, right? I don't think any of us have an opinion to give another about what your life choices are. So when you come to those crossroads in your life, I would suggest, you trust your instinct and your gut and your heart. And we're all going to make mistakes. We've made mistakes. I think it's the way we learn best, actually, is from the mistakes and looking back. But it's not about you have to give your life to your career or your family. I truthfully think you can do both. And if you excel and you have the drive that I'm guessing most of you do, you're going to get yourself right back on your career track as soon as you decide to get back on. And then I wanted to talk about leadership. Authentic leadership is very important to me. I think I'm very transparent. Communication is very important. I use the terminology, whether it's from Simon Sinek, who in his book, Leaders Eat Last, refers to that mindset in our military. I use that, the reason I'm telling you first, because it comes to mind first. It's for me, leaders eat last. Our job is how can we work hard to inspire others to take action? And I think that part of that, the best way to do that is to step back, take care of our people first. I like to look through the eyes of our staff, our riders. It's very, very intentional. We've outlined corporate goals and objectives. Of course, I came here to TARTA, and we have a major transformation in every respect that is necessary to really turn this agency around. I'll be honest with you, I don't think that the environment or the relationship between management and the staff was very positive before I arrived. I only tell you that because that's just another challenge ahead of us, which doesn't bother me. I relish challenges and say, let's go for it. But I mean, how do you improve morale? How do you build a trusting relationship? You do that through transparency and caring for your people. Some values that are very important to me are diversity and inclusion, and dignity and respect. And again, we have a lot of work to do here at TARTA to get everyone's mindset around that. But I definitely love to look for emerging leaders. Professional development is incredibly important. That's the future. And I believe that's a job of a leader, is to build a strong team so that in your presence, right, the things that you believe in and are important are incorporated, and then you begin to grow people and watch them grow, and it's intentional, right? Challenge them to think outside the box, get outside their comfort zone, take advantage of professional growth opportunities, because isn't that our job, to make a career pathway for someone if they would like? Not everyone's going to take that option. But if someone is interested in that, that's what our job is, to make sure we say, we want to invest in you. We want to give you the tools and resources. You are the future of our agency. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about was mentors. Mentors have been incredibly important to me in my career. I serve as a mentor, but I will tell you, every mentoring relationship that I'm in, I receive and grow just as much from my mentee. And I have had probably about 3 very, very important mentors to me through my career. I intentionally choose people, and I would suggest that you do the same, who challenge you, who don't just tell you you're doing a great job, but they can speak candidly with you about your strengths, your weaknesses, and give you recommendations for how you can grow. And emulating behavior, we can learn from everyone that we engage with, and have definitely chosen to emulate the behavior of people that we highly respect, and that we have values that we align with that person, whether it's the way they choose to speak to people, or how they handle situations, how they handle crisis. Look, watch. And there certainly will be behaviors that I've had one boss in particular through my career that I know there was a lesson meant to be learned, and it was what behavior not to emulate. talk about government a little bit. Like it's great, like Sarah had mentioned we're funded with federal, very little state, but that's another day's discussion, and local funding. So what's actually really interesting, I don't know if you know this, but we live in a very highly regulated environment. That doesn't bother me. I think that it really helps us. And one of the areas, when I talked about diversity before, is that there's so many opportunities that, how exciting for us. And we got to work on this here at TARTA, but Federal Transit Administration gives us money, and we're intentional about making sure people are at the table and people have opportunity, and that should be opportunity for to get in the door, to get a job here, so that we're a place. One of my goals is to make sure that we're an employer of choice, where people are lined up. They really, really want to work here because it's a great work environment. We treat people with respect. We give them a good benefits package. When I talked about the professional growth and professional development, they could see beyond just it's not doing the same job every year for 20 years or 30 years. We have there are regulations, but don't they make sense, right? To open doors of opportunity for business, for disadvantaged business enterprises and small business and women-owned business and minority-owned business. Civil rights to make sure everyone's treated, that limited English proficiency individuals do not have barriers to high quality public transportation, and that people with disabilities under the Americans with Disabilities Act also have access to high quality transportation. So I'm going to stop after a minute. I have just a few other thoughts, and then Sarah, if you want to poke holes or ask questions, it'd be my pleasure. Just a few thoughts I want to leave you with. Commit your life and your career to doing something that you love, especially as you grow in leadership. Every day is a challenge. I mean, I call it a roller coaster ride. Every single day here and it's okay. I like it, but devote your life to what you're passionate about. Nothing is impossible, nothing, and get comfortable getting outside of your comfort zone. You see this photo behind my desk. I was in the 2016 Leadership APTA class. It was a great honor to have been given that opportunity, but basically that's about 25 individuals from across the United States who are selected as future leaders. So remember, even though I told you I've been doing this for 30 years, guess what? Only a couple of years ago, somebody said, you're an emerging leader. So you're always an emerging leader. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how many years you've been working in business, but just keep going and keep going. I wish we were in person, because Danny knows, I get pumped being around people. So I wish we could have walked the floor, shook hands, gotten all jazzed up. But, thanks for your interest. Thanks for supporting TARTA. Looking forward to a great future together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. I do have a question here. First of all, can you just maybe speak kind of broadly about your response to the, I guess, current, right, still pandemic, and the immediate issues that have arisen with COVID-19? And then I do have a question from a participant. I might need to connect you a little bit to maybe work through this. But there is a question of, when will the normal times and schedules go back into effect that might have been altered or changed through the COVID-19 crisis?
Okay, so maybe I'll do the latter question first, because it's easier. It's premature for us to be able to say when. We honestly were monitoring, just like everyone else, every single day what the COVID situation is. Did we flatten the curve? We've been very lucky at TARTA. We've had one presumptive positive in all of the time of our employees. We have 325 employees, but it just is premature. However, on June 8th, which is next Monday, we will begin from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. We've been on a Saturday schedule, which is 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we're also going to ramp up caller ride service in the suburbs, although it will look different than it had looked in the past. But, we're trying now. I'll kind of weave into the first question. We moved very swiftly on COVID. We were the first Ohio public transit system to deploy certain policies to protect our drivers and riders, including fare-free boarding. Because if you think about it, the point of contact at the fare box And our fare boxes are very old. They're more than 20 years old. Many of them don't work correctly, and it was easy to make these types of decisions, right? It's about protection, and if we're going to queue up the riders right next to each other to have them put the $1.50 into the fare box, that was an easy decision. Rear door boarding, we did 10 or fewer passengers, which we have kept all along. And we also moved back the standee line, which is the yellow line that's typically right next to the driver that we would ask all of the riders to stay behind. We moved that back about 8 feet with a bungee cord and a sign respectfully asking for social distancing. Imagine the challenge of trying to protect your drivers, but still move people. And this 10 or fewer, we solved it with shadow service, which means that additional vehicles are on hand and ready to pick up the overflow. That's worked pretty well. I mean, we might have had a handful of hiccups, but we're still transporting about 1,600 people a day for essential trips only. And you know, it wasn't just that. It was how can we protect the night cleaners who have to disinfect the buses every single night? How do we protect our maintenance driver staff? How do we protect our administrative staff? You know, we moved very quickly on having who could work remotely, have them work remotely if we had a system in place and we were able to do that. Social distancing for other essential staff who needed to be here. Disinfecting of all work areas. So we're doing fine, and I'm very proud that we moved very quickly. We had open communication, constant communication with our staff. They seemed very, very appreciative of all of the undertakings. And the other thing that we did was frontline pay, and there's varying pay scales for that depending on like the risk and the social distancing. You think about our TARPS drivers, right, who are required to give one-on-one personal assistance door to door to our riders. How can you put all precautions in place to be sure that there is no social distancing ability there? And just a reminder, if anyone needs to ask, we were recipients of the Federal CARES Act funding, $17.8 million that covered transit agencies are considered a critical infrastructure sector under the Department of Homeland Security. And so that covered lost revenue and expenditures related to COVID. Lots of information, but thanks, Sarah.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for all of that information. And it does really sound like, you know, your organization stepped up and definitely led through this crisis. So I have another question here. Maybe it's too early to know, but where do you see implementation of bus rapid transit? Monroe Street always seems to make sense to me, or maybe what do you see as the truly important intra-city transportation corridors? And that question, it's to everyone. So Kim, if you need to take a look at that, you can see that down in your chat.
Okay, so I without seeing it, I think and I'm going to let Danny chime in because Danny's going to be like the guru of every high frequency corridor here. I wish I could have written to like understand all of them, but we were doing COVID and a bunch of other emergency things. But anyways, anywhere that there's like seriously high frequency corridors or high capacity, right? Where there's high demand, commercial, retail, service. How do we move people as quickly as we can? And part of that is going to be part of the challenge is land use strategies. How do we get our municipalities to work together with us to like for peak time to allow for bus only? We might have to do, it's called BRT light, bus rapid transit light. So where in Connecticut, we had a fixed guideway. Most places, it's almost impossible to get a fixed guideway that only has buses on. But how can we make sure that traffic patterns and mixed use on the road benefit more frequent service for bus? Think about traffic signal prioritization, right? How cool if we could build that technology in that lets during peak the bus go faster than the cars. No offense to anyone who's driving in a car, but wouldn't that be an incentive to, hey, jump on the bus? And I'll give it to Danny because I know he's jumping right in.
Oh, I'm chomping. Yeah. McGregor has a great point on Monroe Street. I think Monroe connects a lot of our elements downtown and then out to the suburbs too. So that's a great spot. But before we would implement any BRTs or bus rapid light transit, I think that's what you just called it. We do some consumer input and ask the communities and the ridership and do some studies and look at TMCOG and other data to see where those high frequency corridors are. I think the route between Bancroft or between the University of Toledo to downtown Toledo from Bancroft down Monroe that passes the art museum might be another area for some more frequent service. But I think it's still a little bit too early to tell. Kim, I'm going to ask you a question about what you see as our redesign, and maybe tell us some of the things that you may have done at your past job in New Haven. But I think, McGregor, part of that redesign is some more frequent corridors to the main downtown areas. Imagine a downtown Toledo to a downtown Sylvania route, and equally important, a downtown Sylvania to a downtown Maumee route. And then from there, some smaller circulators or smaller routes around that area. And then on-demand service out in the less dense areas.
Yeah, Danny's right. And so to add to that, it's bus stop consolidation. Drive around our community, and we have a bus stop sign on top of almost every no parking sign. I have no idea how that alignment occurred, but it's not just bus stop alignment. It's making sure that any of these, like we call them lollipop turns on routes that who even knows how they came. Maybe it was some nice politician's grandmother lives somewhere, but somehow so what we need is alignment, right? It's bus stop consolidation alignment, and it's route alignment so that we can move as quickly as possible. And it is, to Danny's point, like grid service, north, south, west, east, intentional mobility hubs, multimodal hubs around the outskirts of our service area, so that everyone doesn't, like you saw that graphic early in the video where it showed every fixed route line goes outbound, and then you have to come into the hub. We force transfers, which does lots of things. Unfortunate. We make people pay a fare again. We make them wait to get on the next vehicle to transfer back out on an outbound line. So, between the bus rapid transit, the real-time data, more frequent service, let's not have low performing fixed route lines. One of our challenges is we don't have the technology that we should, like we don't have automatic passenger counters so that we can make data driven decisions. And that's something we're going to work on to correct, because once we can do that, we could say this is technically an underperforming fixed route line that let's not do that anymore. Don't put the 40-foot bus out there running with few people on it. How do we do micro transit on demand to meet the needs of the people in that part of our community, but make sure that we're maximizing our return on investment by increasing the number of people who are riding in the high capacity corridors.
Kim, I think we got a question from Katie in the chat. She says she's a cater advocate. When can we start to pay $6 again? I'm not sure to what she's referring, but her second part of the question, she said, I don't mind to pay, but will this affect the sales tax in November? I am not certain that any $6 pay would impact the sales tax in November. Do you know what $6 she's talking about?
I think it's probably for a round trip ticket on TARPs, because it's $3 each way, I'm guessing, for fare. And we remain fare free on TARPs as well for right now. And I'll let you you spoke to the sales tax piece.
Yep. All right, any other questions? I'll just tag in for Sarah. Any other questions or comments, concerns for Kim while we've got her on the line? We've already talked about some of the ways that she's been here 6 months and got a couple million in funding here, well, over 20 million. The new plan for our delivery service system and how we're gonna step by step get some customer feedback and work with our municipalities to stage out those routes appropriately. Download the transit app. It's easy to find your route, and you can even pay on there. That's one of our new initiatives, the ability to pay online and see your route like that.
Yeah, just to clarify one thing. So Easy Fare, we are fare free right now, but Easy Fare is the ability to pay fares online. And we're working, if you try transit app and it's not working, we're in the middle of that project. That's a CAD AVL system that will feed real-time data, and feel free, give our team a call. Any ideas? You can call me personally, whatever you like, but thanks for having us.
McGregor Driscoll asked a question, is Transit app different from Passio Go?
It's a different software platform. Transit app is used across the United States actually to read the GTFS feed. It's used commonly.
I traveled to New York City after I downloaded Transit app, and even they are plugged into Transit
Yeah.
app. So no matter where I've gone, I've been able to link up to their public transit system from that app. Honestly, it's just so clean, great user interface to it. It shows me where I have to walk, and like I have it on my headphone, so it'll tell me when I'm on the bus, hey, you got 2 stops, get ready to get off.
And when we think about the future, I didn't really mention it, but the public transit industry sort of had been, you think about the TNCs like Uber and Lyft had been major disruptors in our industry about 4 years ago. And that's why kind of transit's been pivoting, right? Like, what does our service delivery look like? How are we moving to microtransit? But the long-term future goal really should be a trend towards mobility as a service. And we need to be careful that we don't deploy like so many different softwares and have to have the end user to go so many different places to accomplish their goals. How do we build one technology platform that's related to TARTA and other mobility partners so that you as the end user, when I talked earlier about making choices, right? You wanna see, what could I do? The next bus is coming at such and such a time, or I could grab an Uber, it's gonna cost me $7, or I can get the bike share. So it'll be exciting to build a technology platform like that in the future. It'll take some time, but that's really the end goal, because you don't wanna go 6 different places to try to, you don't have to go on our website and then go to Transit app and then maybe Passio works this day, maybe it doesn't. You want it all in one place, and we know that. So we get there. Thank you.
Awesome. I don't see any more questions in here, but I do have one for you, Kim. What would you say is your greatest or accomplishment or something that you're most proud of through your career so far?
Yeah, before I came to TARTA, and I was executive director at Greater New Haven Transit District, in about 5 years, 5.5 years. It was a smaller system, 160 employees, paratransit only, but it had so many similarities to what TARTA's situation is. Financial challenges, lack of investment in assets, infrastructure, corporate culture. And in 5.5 years, I was able to build a whole new team who led that through complete transformation. And I know without fact, and when we talk about leadership, I think you're supposed to be in it all the way, building a team so that there comes a day where you can step back and the team is there, like the right people doing the right thing. And it even though it was kind of sad, right? But I knew it was time for me to leave, because if there was no challenge ahead of me there, it was time for me to leave and move on somewhere else. So how can we as leaders have the humility? It really is the word. Like, it's this balance, right? To have the strength, but then have the humility to step back and say, this is a great team and they don't need me anymore. So that I would say is probably my best accomplishment, and looking forward to spending some years here because we got lots of work to do.
Absolutely. Well, Danny, do you have any other questions or anything to add? No? All right. Well, I think that might be it for us. Kim, I do have one request from someone to maybe connect for a workforce related issue maybe. And so I'll help you out there. Happy to do that. But other than that, Kim, thank you so much. We're so happy to have you part of our community, leading this initiative, and we wish you the best of luck, and keep us in mind of how we can really help and make this a success for our community.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership and for the invitation. Thanks.
Okay. Well, thanks to everyone. Please stay in touch with us so you can hear about upcoming events that Epic Toledo is going to be offering, whether they be virtual or slowly some small group things such as the golf lessons that we're partnering with Heather Downs Country Club on. So feel free to check our website and our weekly emails for more information. And we hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you for joining us. Bye.